Everyone told you to be a good person, to be kind, to be patient, to turn the other cheek, and maybe you became exactly that. But no one ever told you the part that matters most. A goodness that cannot defend itself is not virtue. It's fear wearing a nicer mask. Think about the men you actually respect, not the ones you pity. The ones you respect, they are almost never the softest people in the room. There's something underneath their calm, something contained, something that tells everyone around them, this man could be dangerous, and he is choosing not to be. That choice is the whole game, and most people never get to make it, because they were never dangerous to begin with. They were just harmless, and harmless is not the same as good. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this better than any philosopher who ever lived. He looked at the morality everyone around him worshipped, the meekness, the niceness, the endless self-sacrifice, and he saw something disturbing hiding underneath it. He saw that much of what we call being good is just weakness that never had another option. A man who cannot strike calls himself peaceful. A man who cannot win calls the game unfair. A man who has no claws calls gentleness a virtue. And he believed this confusion was quietly destroying the strongest part of human beings. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 7 stages of becoming dangerous in the way Nietzsche actually meant it. Not cruel, not violent, dangerous. The kind of man who has reclaimed his own power, his own teeth, his own will, and who therefore can no longer be used, manipulated, or pushed around by anyone. And by the end, you'll understand the forbidden truth at the center of all of it. What actually makes a man dangerous is not his capacity for violence. It's something far deeper, something almost no one has. And once you see what it is, you'll understand why certain people simply cannot be broken. Let's begin. Here's a question that should bother you. Why do we treat being harmless as if it were the same thing as being good? A dog that has had its teeth removed is not gentle, it's just disarmed. A man who never gets angry is not necessarily evolved. He might simply be afraid of what happens if he does. And yet, somewhere along the way, we started handing out moral praise for the absence of power, as if having no ability to harm anyone was an achievement rather than a limitation. Nietzsche drew a line between 2 kinds of morality, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. There is master morality, the values of people who are strong, self-determined, who decide for themselves what is good based on what makes them powerful and full of life. And there is slave morality, the values of people who are weak, who cannot act, and who therefore build an entire moral system that praises exactly the traits they happen to have. Meekness becomes humility, cowardice becomes patience, inability becomes virtue. They cannot rise, so they call staying low a holy thing. And here is what makes it so insidious. The weak don't just live by this morality, they preach it. They need everyone else to adopt it too, because a world where strength is celebrated is a world where they lose. But a world where strength is shameful, where ambition is greed, where confidence is arrogance, where self-interest is sin, that's a world where the strong are talked out of their own power before they ever use it. It's a quiet disarmament dressed up as ethics. Think about how this played out in your own life. How many times were you told to calm down when you were right to be angry? How many times was your ambition called arrogance, your boundary called selfishness, your confidence called ego? You were being trained, not to be good, to be manageable, to be the kind of person who is easy for others to live with, easy to take from, easy to control. And you mistook that training for character. The toothless virtue feels noble from the inside. That's the trap. You feel like a better person for never pushing back, for always understanding, for swallowing the insult and smiling. But Nietzsche would ask you one brutal question. Is it really virtue if you had no other choice? Is it really kindness if you're simply too afraid to be anything else? Because a man who could destroy you and chooses mercy is kind. A man who simply cannot hurt you is not kind. He's just powerless. And calling it kindness is the lie that keeps him comfortable. And that lie, the one that taught you to mistake your own fear for your own goodness, didn't come from nowhere. Someone fed it to you on purpose. And to become dangerous, You first have to see exactly how the lie was built. There's a specific poison Nietzsche identified at the root of slave morality, and he gave it a name. He called it ressentiment. And once you understand it, you'll start seeing it everywhere, including, if you're honest, inside yourself. Ressentiment is what happens when a person feels weak, envious, or powerless, but cannot admit it, even to themselves. So instead of saying, "I wish I had that strength," they tell themselves a different story. They decide that the strength is bad, that the person who has it is evil, that wanting it at all is shameful. They take their own inability and transform it into a moral high ground. "I'm not weak," they tell themselves. "I'm just better than the people who chase power. I'm humble, I'm pure, I'm good." It's one of the most clever defense mechanisms the human mind has ever invented, because it lets you feel superior precisely because of your weakness. The man who never achieved anything tells himself ambition is hollow. The person who was never chosen tells themselves that wanting to be desirable is vanity. The one who never had the courage to act calls the people who acted reckless. Their failure becomes their virtue. Their fear becomes their philosophy. And here is why this matters so much for you. You have been swimming in this poison your entire life. It's in the culture. It's in the sayings you absorbed without thinking. "Money is the root of all evil," says the person who never made any. "He thinks he's so special," says the person terrified of standing out. "Must be nice," says the one who never tried. Every one of these is ressentiment talking. It's weakness rebranding itself as wisdom, and it works because it lets people avoid the painful truth about why they don't have what they want. Think about the last time you shrank yourself to make someone else comfortable. The last time you downplayed a win so you wouldn't seem arrogant. The last time you talked yourself out of wanting something because wanting it felt greedy or vain. That was ressentiment, not yours necessarily, but the ressentiment of everyone who trained you, living on inside your head, pulling you back down every time you tried to rise. The cruelest part is that the people who fed you this lie genuinely believed they were helping you. They were passing on the only survival code they knew. Stay small, and you won't be a target. Want nothing, and you can't be disappointed. Need no one, and you can't be hurt. It feels like wisdom. But it's the philosophy of people who have already surrendered, teaching you to surrender too, before you've even fought. So the first real act of becoming dangerous is not learning to fight. It's learning to see the poison for what it is, and refusing to drink any more of it. But seeing the lie is only the beginning, because underneath it, there is something in you that the lie was designed to suppress, and that something is the engine of everything Nietzsche believed in. Nietzsche believed there was one fundamental force driving all of life, not the will to survive, not the will to pleasure, something deeper. He called it the will to power. And the reason it sounds dangerous is exactly why you need to understand it. The will to power is the drive in every living thing to grow, to expand, to overcome resistance, to become more than it currently is. It's the seed cracking the concrete to reach the sun. It's the child learning to stand. It's the part of you that is restless, that wants more, that refuses to be satisfied with smallness. Nietzsche saw it everywhere, beneath everything. Even our so-called selfless acts, he argued, are often the will to power in disguise, the desire to feel strong, to matter, to leave a mark on the world. Now, here's the thing most people get catastrophically wrong. The will to power is not about dominating other people. That's the weak man's version, the brute who needs to control others because he cannot control himself. The highest expression of the will to power for Nietzsche is power over yourself. The discipline to master your impulses, the strength to shape your own character like an artist shapes marble. The man who can command himself has no need to tyrannize anyone else. His power turns inward and upward, and it makes him magnificent. But you, like most people, have been taught to deny this drive entirely, to feel guilty for wanting more, to call your ambition ego, your hunger greed, your desire to rise a character flaw. And so, the most powerful force inside you, the one that could have built you into something extraordinary, gets buried under layers of shame. It doesn't disappear. It can't. It just leaks out sideways, as passive aggression, as envy, as that bitter little voice that resents everyone who did what you were too afraid to do. Think about what happens to a river when you dam it without an outlet. The water doesn't stop wanting to flow. The pressure just builds and builds until it finds a crack, and when it breaks through, it's destructive. That's what a denied will to power does inside a man. It turns to rot. The ambition you wouldn't honor becomes resentment. The strength you wouldn't claim becomes bitterness toward the strong. You become exactly the kind of person you were trained to be, small, safe, and quietly furious about it. To become dangerous is to stop apologizing for this force and start directing it. To say, out loud, even just to yourself, yes, I want to be powerful, I want to be strong, I want to grow into the fullest, sharpest version of what I could be. That sentence feels forbidden because the lie made it forbidden. But the moment you stop fighting your own will to power and start aiming it, you stop being a dammed up river of resentment and become a force with a direction. And once you've claimed that force, you face the next threshold, the one most people will never cross. Because reclaiming your power means reclaiming something we've been taught to fear above all else, the capacity to do harm. Here is the line that separates a dangerous man from a harmless one, and it's not what you think. It's not that the dangerous man wants to hurt people. It's that he could, and everyone can feel it. A harmless man offers you kindness because it's the only thing he has. There's no weight behind it, because there was never any alternative. But when a man who is clearly capable of standing his ground, of saying no, of walking away, of pushing back hard, chooses to be gentle with you instead, that gentleness means something. It's a gift, not a default. Nietzsche understood that virtue without the capacity for its opposite is empty. Your honesty only matters if you could have lied and gotten away with it. Your mercy only matters if you had the power to be ruthless. Your kindness only counts if it was chosen from a position of strength, not surrendered from a position of fear. This is why becoming dangerous is not a moral downgrade. It's the precondition for real virtue. You cannot genuinely choose the high road if the low road was never available to you. The man who has developed himself, his competence, his confidence, his willingness to confront, becomes capable of harm, and only then does his goodness carry any force. He is no longer good because he's afraid. He's good because he decided to be, with full power to choose otherwise. That is the only kind of goodness that commands respect instead of pity. And this capacity isn't built in comfort. Nietzsche's most famous line gets quoted constantly and understood rarely. What does not kill me makes me stronger. People treat it like a motivational poster, but he meant something precise and demanding. He meant that suffering, hardship, opposition, the things you've spent your life avoiding, are exactly what forge a person into something formidable. The man who has been tested, who has been through the fire and come out the other side, carries something the comfortable man never will. He knows what he can survive, and a man who knows what he can survive is almost impossible to intimidate. Think about why some people can't be pushed around and others fold instantly. It's not size, it's not volume, it's that the unshakable ones have been through enough darkness that your threats sound small. They've already met their fear and lived. So when life, or another person, tries to apply pressure, there's nothing soft left to press on. They became dangerous not by seeking to harm others, but by refusing to stay fragile, by treating every hardship as training instead of injury, by letting what didn't kill them sharpen them into something with an edge. So stop running from difficulty as if it were the enemy. The discomfort you avoid is the exact material your strength is made of. Every hard conversation you have instead of avoiding, every time you hold a boundary instead of caving, every challenge you walk toward instead of around, you are building the capacity that makes your eventual kindness mean something. You are growing teeth. And a man with teeth who chooses restraint is the most respected creature in any room. But there's a deeper threshold still ahead, because the most dangerous thing you'll ever have to face is not another person. It's the darkness inside yourself, the part you've spent your whole life refusing to look at. Nietzsche wrote a warning that has echoed for over a century. When you gaze long into the abyss also gazes into you. Most people read that as a reason to look away. They have it exactly backwards. Inside every person there is an abyss. The capacity for rage, for cruelty, for selfishness, for envy, for everything you've been told a good person should never feel. And most people deal with this by pretending it isn't there. They build a clean, pleasant self-image, and they shove the dark material down where they don't have to see it. They think this makes them good. Nietzsche, and later the psychologists who followed him, understood that it makes them weak, and worse, it makes them controllable. Because the parts of yourself you refuse to look at are the parts that run you without your consent. Here's why the man who refuses to face his own darkness is so easy to manipulate. His anger is buried, so it leaks out at the wrong times, and he doesn't understand why. His envy is denied, so it quietly sabotages him. His capacity for selfishness is disowned, so he gets exploited by anyone willing to use his guilt against him. He is a man with a basement full of things he won't acknowledge, and anyone who finds the door can use what's down there against him. He has no power over forces he won't even admit he has. Now picture the man who has done the opposite, the man who has descended into his own abyss and looked directly at everything in it. He has seen his own capacity for rage, and instead of being ruled by it, he has befriended it, made it his ally, learned to summon it when it's needed, and contain it when it's not. He has faced his own selfishness, his own darkness, his own potential for harm, and because he has faced it, it no longer controls him, he controls it. This is the integration Nietzsche pointed toward and Jung later mapped in detail. You do not become whole by amputating your darkness. You become whole by claiming it. Think about how differently these two men move through the world. The first flinches at his own shadow, so anyone can spook him with it, just hint that he's selfish, that he's angry, that he's not as good as he pretends, and he crumbles, desperate to prove otherwise. The second cannot be shamed about his darkness, because he already knows it intimately, and he's made his peace with it. You cannot threaten a man with a truth he has already accepted about himself. He has taken the weapon out of your hands by picking it up himself. This is the part of becoming dangerous that no one wants to do, because it requires staring at the things about yourself you've spent a lifetime avoiding. But on the other side of that descent is a kind of unshakable solidity. A man who has integrated his abyss has nothing left to hide from, and therefore nothing anyone can use to control him. He has become whole, and a whole man is a dangerous man, not because he wants to harm, but because he can no longer be handled. And that wholeness produces something visible, something other people sense the instant you walk into a room. It's the sixth stage, and it changes how the entire world treats you. Have you ever noticed that some people are simply not tested? Others get interrupted, talked over, pushed, manipulated, taken for granted. But certain people seem to move through life with an invisible boundary around them that others instinctively respect. Nietzsche had a concept for the quality behind this. He called it the pathos of distance. The pathos of distance is the sense of separation that naturally surrounds a person of genuine self-worth. It's not arrogance, and it's not coldness. It's the quiet, unspoken signal that this person has standards, has a center, has a line that will not be crossed, and knows their own value independent of anyone's approval. People feel it before a single word is spoken, and they adjust. They sit up a little straighter. They choose their words more carefully. They don't try the manipulations they try on someone softer, because some animal part of their brain has already calculated that it won't work and might cost them. Here's what's crucial to understand. You cannot fake this. The pathos of distance is not a posture you put on. It radiates from a man who has actually done the work, who has reclaimed his will, faced his abyss, built his capacity, and therefore genuinely does not need the approval of the person in front of him. That lack of need is the source of the power. The man who needs you to like him is always slightly beneath you, no matter how he postures. The man who would be perfectly fine if you walked away holds a gravity that pulls everyone toward him. Need repels. Self-sufficiency attracts and commands. Think about the difference between how people treat someone who is desperate for the job versus someone who clearly has other options. Between the lover who can't be lost and the one who's terrified of losing. Between the man who chases and the man who, calm and unbothered, lets the world come to him. In every case, the one with less need holds more power and receives more respect, even when nothing is said out loud. Scarcity of need creates abundance of respect. This is not a trick, it's a law of human nature, and Nietzsche saw it clearly. And this is the great reward of becoming dangerous, the practical payoff for all the inner work. When you have reclaimed your power, you stop having to fight for respect because it's given automatically. You stop having to defend your boundaries constantly because people stop testing them. You stop being the one who's manipulated, overlooked and used because the signal you now give off tells everyone that those moves will fail. You didn't become loud, you didn't become cruel, you became someone with teeth, and the whole world can feel it, and the whole world responds. But all of this, the will, the capacity, the abyss, the distance, points toward one final truth, the thing that actually makes a man dangerous in the deepest sense, and it's not any of the things you'd expect. So, let's return to the question underneath this entire video. What actually makes a man dangerous? Everyone assumes they know. They picture strength, aggression, the capacity for violence, the ability to intimidate, and every one of those answers misses the real thing entirely. Here is the forbidden truth Nietzsche spent his life pointing toward. What truly makes a man dangerous is not his capacity to harm others, it's that he cannot be controlled. A man who cannot be bought, cannot be frightened, cannot be shamed, cannot be seduced away from his own path, that is the dangerous man. Not because of what he can do to you, but because of what you can no longer do to him. Every lever the world uses to move people, fear, approval, guilt, desire, comfort, has been removed from his back. He has become, in the deepest sense, free. And a free man is the most dangerous thing that has ever existed, because he is the one thing power cannot use. Think about how every form of control actually works. They threaten what you're afraid to lose. They dangle what you desperately want. They withhold the approval you crave. They trigger the guilt you can't tolerate. Every chain that has ever been put on a human being runs through some need, some fear, some weakness inside that person. The man who has done the work of these 7 stages has systematically cut those chains from the inside. He faced his fears, so they can't be used. He claimed his will, so he isn't begging. He integrated his abyss, so he can't be shamed. He built his strength so hardship doesn't break him. What's left is a man with no handles, and a man with no handles cannot be steered by anyone. And notice that this is the exact opposite of what you were trained to fear. You were taught that the dangerous man is the one with no control, the one who might explode. But the man who might explode is the easiest of all to manage, because his rage is a button anyone can push. The truly dangerous man is the one with total control, the one whose reactions belong to him alone and cannot be triggered, baited, or provoked by anyone. His calm is not weakness. It is the visible sign that no one has a remote control to his nervous system. That is what real power looks like, and it is almost silent. This is why Nietzsche dreamed of what he called the Übermensch, the man who overcomes himself, who creates his own values instead of inheriting them, who answers to his own standard instead of the herd's. He is dangerous not because he is violent, but because he is sovereign. He decides what is good. He decides what he will tolerate. He decides who he is, and no amount of social pressure can vote him out of that decision. The herd finds this terrifying, because the herd controls people through belonging, and a man who doesn't need to belong is a man the herd has lost forever. And here is where it all connects to the deepest layer. Nietzsche had a phrase for the final attitude of such a man: amor fati, the love of one's fate. It means embracing your life, your suffering, your path, everything that has happened and will happen, not with mere acceptance but with love. The man who has reached this point doesn't just survive his hardships, he says yes to them. He would live his entire life again, pain and all. And think about what that does to anyone trying to control him. You cannot threaten a man with suffering when he has already embraced suffering. You cannot break a man who has made peace with breaking. He has taken the one universal weapon, the fear of pain, and disarmed it completely by loving the very thing everyone else runs from. That is the dangerous man in full, not the brute, not the tyrant. Those men are still slaves, controlled by their own need to dominate. The truly dangerous man is the sovereign one. The one who has reclaimed his will, faced his darkness, built his strength, and made peace with his fate, until there is simply nothing left in him for the world to grab. He can be kind, and his kindness is real because he chose it from strength. He can be generous because he gives from fullness, not fear. And he can never ever be made into someone's instrument because he belongs entirely to himself. So, understand what becoming dangerous actually means. It was never about learning to hurt people. It was about becoming someone who can no longer be hurt into obedience. The goal was never cruelty. It was sovereignty. The man Nietzsche pointed toward isn't the one everyone fears walking down the street. He's the one who sits calm in a room full of people trying to move him and cannot be moved because he wants nothing they control and fears nothing they threaten. And maybe, somewhere in this, you recognized how much of your life you've spent on the other side of it. Harmless instead of good, manageable instead of free, trained to mistake your fear for your virtue. If so, understand that everything can change, and it begins with a single decision: to stop apologizing for your own strength and start building it, to grow your teeth, face your abyss, claim your will, and become a man who chooses his kindness instead of one who has no other option. Nietzsche believed most people would never do this, that they would die having never once truly belonged to themselves, having spent their whole lives as instruments of other people's wills, comforted only by the lie that their weakness was goodness. But a few would refuse. A few would make the climb. And those few would become something the world has always both feared and needed: free. In the next video, I'll show you how the Stoics took this same fire and learned to control it completely. How to become unbreakable, not through power, but through perfect command of your own mind. It's the discipline that makes the dangerous man unstoppable. Watch that one next, and once you've seen both, there's no going back.